Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to another great game of the SuperUnited Rapid and Blitz chess tournament in 2023. We're following now the epic Indian derby from this event. We're following now the amazing game between Gukesh and Vishy Anand. And it's not only an Indian derby, it's I think also the derby of generation because Gukesh is only 17 years old. On the other hand, Vishy Anand is now 53 years old. But Vishy had of course a great career, and I ask myself always the question, can someone of these chess prodigies that are coming now from India, there are many great players now really from India, and probably one of them will be in the next couple of years maybe even the world champion in chess. I always ask myself the question, can really someone step in Vishy Anand's shoes? It's I think a tough quest because we know how great Vishy's career was and still is, I think, because still Vishy can beat anyone if Vishy has his day. But it's a tough quest to maybe really repeat Vishy's career because in my opinion Vishy lost his World Chess Championship title against probably the greatest chess player of all times, and I would always somewhere place Vishy at least in the top 5 of all times. So that's why I think this young prodigies, there are many of them of course from India, have really a tough quest to become maybe the successors of Vishy Anand. So there is also a beautiful connection between Croatia and India that I wanted to also tell you because I'm here from Croatia and this tournament is going on now in Croatia, but our landsman and our former national coach of our football team, Igor Stimac, had now great success with the Indian team, so he's coaching now the Indian football team, and they won now the South Asian Cup in 2023. Great success also for the Indian team. Maybe India, and I don't know, maybe the next couple of years would not be only a chess force, maybe India will be also a football force. I wish them all of the best. I wish also Igor Stimac through this video the best in his career with India. So let's see now the derby. Gukesh versus Vishy Anand. Gukesh opened with the move e4. We have now the move c6 by Vishy, his favorite opening, the caro-kann, d4, d5, and now the Marozzi variation. Tricky idea here by Gukesh, f3. What he's trying to do is of course after d takes e4, f takes e4 to connect the pawns here in the center of the board, have a space control in the center, but actually this is nothing that should worry you. Here e5 is a good choice. Then after knight to f3, bishop to g4, keeping the pressure around the square e5 and d4. But here after move f3 that Gukesh played, Anand played the more solid line with the move e6. So knight to c3, knight to d7, bishop to e3, and now bishop to b4, trying to mess up the pawn structure by taking out the knight, creating double pawn structure here on the c file. We have now the bishop to d3, and now a risky choice by c5 by Vishy here with the move c5. And this move the engine doesn't like, but when you think about it harder, this is actually something that you should try to avoid, because when you have collisions, pawn collisions in the center of the board, then we watch the outcome. What kind of an outcome will happen here in the center of the board? And Gukesh realizes that there is a possibility of creating the isolated d pawn, which is of course a structural weakness which becomes now suddenly an object of white's attack. Of course Vishy has this idea, bishop to c3, b takes c3, but all of these pawns can be connected, and especially I think the bishop on d4. When the bishop comes on d4, it will become simply the best minor piece on the board. So knight to e7 by Vishy, knight to e2, castling. Vishy wants to get his pawn back now finally on c5. Gukesh creates an attack here on the queen side, and now after move knight to c5, a5, what Gukesh is trying to do is simply split somehow here the pawns and simply attack him. It's really an amazing minority attack, playing with this 1 versus 2 minority attack with this pawn attack here on the queen side, trying to provoke some weaknesses. A weakness can of course be a weak pawn or maybe a weak square in your opponent's position. So rook to d8, bishop to f4, hitting the queen, queen to d7, queen to d2, and now Vishy saw this idea to simplify the game by trading off the knight for a bishop, because after c takes d3, we have now the opposite colored bishop. I would call it middle game, of course, still it's a middle game stage, but it could reach maybe very soon the endgame stage. And when maybe we reach the fully endgame with maybe only the bishops on the board, then probably this should be a draw. That's, I think, the defensive idea that Vishy had in mind here. He wanted to get this simply opposite color bishops endgame. So knight to c6, knight to g3, f6, rook from f to e1. We have now the move queen to f7. We have queen to f2, bishop to e6, and now bishop to e3 here. Gukesh is targeting maybe also here the weak pawn pawn on a7. Queen to d7 with the preparation maybe to play the move d4, because when you have the isolated d pawn, you want to advance it. And I think there was now a chance maybe for Vishy to do it, because after knight to e2, so far this d4 is not possible, but after bishop to f5 and knight to f4, maybe it was simply time now for Vishy to break and enter here. Maybe even trade off everything here and go for the weak d3 pawn. This was maybe now his last chance to somehow improve his pawn structure, sort of, because it's not a structure, it's just an isolated pawn, but you can advance it, I think, and because you have a good protection of this pawn for sure. But okay, in the game here Queen to f7 was played. Now here Gukesh played a beautiful move h4. He's not allowing here the move g5. If g5 happens, then h takes g5, f takes g5, and then this pawn becomes suddenly an object of white's attack. You endangered you simply too much your king. Darker problems you have already, so it's not a good choice to kick away now this knight from this good square on f4. So h6, now h5, good move again by Gukesh. He paralyzes now the whole king side with his amazing move. The knight is supporting the pawn and the knight are supporting the g6 square. So even if you push it through somehow on g5, then you're left with the f6 weakness and also with the h6 weakness. We simply take, and then although you can recapture, but these are now simply really weak pawns all over the board. So after move h5, we have now knight to e5, rook from e to d1 for protecting now the pawn, knight to c6, rook to b1, rook to b5. Here Gukesh noticed a tactical possibility to maybe somehow attack the bishop, lining up the rook where already the bishop is. We have now the move a6, rook to c5. Gukesh is searching for squares. He's sneaking in with his rook. Really a brave rook here by Gukesh. We have rook to e8 and now c4. Now comes this tactical idea: if you take, your bishop is hanging. So that's why d4 played by Vishy, passing through. We have bishop to d2, rook to e5 by Vishy, rook to d5, rook takes d5, and now we have c takes d5, and now comes the critical moment of the game. Here Vishy didn't react correctly, but maybe you can pause the video and try to see now the best idea here for black, pardon me. It's so tough to see, it's so brutal. I'm not sure how many of us would even consider any of these lines. I'm just wanted to show you how chess is really a brutal game, because you have to be now a monster to calculate everything what's going on now on the board. So try to see now the best idea here for black, at least to save somehow the position, because the position is so messed up. It seemed to be in the beginning that nothing special is going on, but actually everything is going on here in this particular game. Look at this, what happened. Really wild stuff. So I'll give you a couple more seconds. Okay, here Vishy played the move knight to e7, which is a passive move. Whenever you get attacked, you should consider first the next best attacking move. And the next best attacking move is actually knight to e5. But as I said, you have to be really a monster to calculate everything here. After knight to e5, after queen to d4, now you had this resource, knight to d3, to get the pawn back. After something like knight to d3, if you take, of course, here knight takes d3, then we can pick up here the pawn on d5, and then eventually would take out also here the knight on d3. And this was the defensive idea here for Vishy. But of course, white doesn't have to play the game like this, can play of course d6, but again after knight to f4, bishop to f4, both players would have this opposite color bishops. As I said, maybe white has some pressure with this passer, but still also black is here a 2 versus 1 pawn majority. We have equal material, so with this blockade idea on light squares, I think black can survive the game. But knight to e7 was played by Vishy. Gukesh used this moment immediately, simply kicked away the bishop. Gets used now of the only file that's open, of the c file. We have now the move g5. Now comes this idea that we have talked about, which was not good for Vishy, h takes g6. But even if you play here king to h8 or something that's better, maybe slightly better, then this pawn is hanging, and still you haven't solved all of your backtrack problems here. So in my opinion, still a messed up game here for black. So after move g5, of course, en passant, bishop to g6, knight queen to h4, hitting all of these weaknesses. h5, we have g takes h5, Bishop drops back, and now king to f2. It's very, very easy for Gukesh now to play the game. The g file is opened. The knight is coming into the game in a beautiful way. This bishop is targeting the h6. Every piece is now coordinated towards Vishy's king. So it's, I think, game over for the tiger here. Knight to d5. We have to check after king to h7. We have knight to g6. Beautiful move here by Gukesh here after move bishop to g6, h takes g6, king to g6. The game would be over. Actually, after move knight to g6 here in this particular position, Vishy Anand resigned. Let's see possible continuation. As I said, bishop to g6, you have to react because there is this even checkmate threat on h8. If you take it out, then this comes with check. We deliver a couple of checks. Now we get the rook into the game. You don't have a good defense against a queen to h5. You can just prolong the game by maybe sacrificing something, but it's game over here for black for sure. So Gukesh won his game against his mentor Vishy Anand. This win doesn't have to mean anything, of course. As I said, it's a long run to step in Vishy's shoes, but I think for Gukesh it means really much that he won his game today, because he can say, I can beat him sometimes, because we have to say Gukesh is only 70 years old. He has still many room for improvements, but if he can already beat Vishy, he still is, of course, a great player. So Gukesh is, in my opinion, probably the strongest now Indian player, young player, of course, and he has now, I think, the best opportunities to make really a beautiful career. Of course, Praggnanandhaa is here, but Gukesh is already a high-rated player. He will reach, I think, now in the next couple of months, maybe even the top 10 for sure. So his career is going rapidly up, and I think he has really the best chances to become really one of the greatest chess players of all time. So, okay, this was, I think, a beautiful and epic game here in Croatia between two really great chess players. In my opinion, a beautiful game. Gukesh won it today, but who knows, maybe the next couple matches Vishy will probably maybe also win some games against Gukesh, against some other prodigies from the world, because still the tiger has it. We have seen many great games now in the recent past played by also Viswanathan Anand. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas of the caro-kann defense for sure. If you want to see more chess games from this event, check out our coverage so far. Here are some links of some games that we have analyzed before. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.